Hello, and welcome to the Project Amendments and Versions webinar. You can find a copy of these slides in Grants portal in the Support Center under Resources, Training Materials and Tutorials, and Presentation Slides. So a look at our agenda. This functionality has been enabled within the Grants portal and Grants Manager systems for quite some time now. However, with EMMIE, it has not always been utilized. And now that EMMIE will be decommissioned, it is important to ensure that all the process steps for completing project amendments are being completed within the Grants Manager and Grants Portal systems. Also, keep in mind for events declared after January the 15th, 2024, all process steps will be completed in Grants Portal and Grants Manager, as EMMIE will not be utilized. In today's presentation, we will be discussing the types of project amendments, the reason for the amendments, and examples of documentation that's needed for the amendment. We will review capped projects and their potential amendments. We will also go through some Grants Portal and Grants Manager screenshots, and then using our training sites, we'll show the functionality within the system. We will demonstrate submitting a project amendment in Grants Portal. And also, we had some feedback from our SLTT partners asking us to show the functionality of the approval process in Grants Manager. And we can also walk through how to respond to an RFI. So let's take a look at some common terminology that you will see throughout this presentation. So Grants Manager, or GM, GM is the system used by FEMA and federal contractors that supports the PA mission to manage grant applications and projects. It is used to assign and track actions, collect information and documents, and conduct pre-award functions and also soon to be post-award activity. Next is Grants Portal, or GP. Grants Portal is the same as Grants Manager, except it's used by external SLTT partners, such as applicants and recipients. Next is EMMIE, or the Emergency Management Mission Integration Environment. So the establishment of the Grants Manager and Grants Portal as the processing system for all new PA grants has reduced the role of its predecessor, EMMIE. When all remaining EMMIE functions are moved to the Grants Manager and Grants Portal in the near future, EMMIE will be sunsetting, and the Grants Manager and Grants Portal will become the official system of record. Currently, though, EMMIE does remain the official system of record for obligation of events that have not been migrated over. Next is hazard mitigation, or HM. Hazard mitigation is any sustained action taken to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property from natural hazards and their effects. FEMA has the authority to provide PA funding for cost-effective hazard mitigation measures for facilities damaged by the incident. Next is scope of work, or SOW. For emergency work, the scope of work includes work required to address immediate threats. And for permanent work, the scope of work includes a description of how the applicant plans to repair or has repaired the damage, including repair dimensions and hazard mitigation description and dimensions. Consolidated Resource Center, or CRC. The designated CRC is a permanent FEMA office where subject matter experts and specialized resources provide project scoping, costing, validation, and compliance reviews. Request for information, or RFI. So FEMA may require additional information or documentation to evaluate eligibility. And in these cases, FEMA requests the information or documentation by submitting a request for information or an RFI. Responses to RFIs are due by the deadline specified in the RFI. FEMA usually requires responses within 15 days of the applicant's receipt of the RFI. FEMA does establish the deadline based on the nature of the request and the consideration of the type and volume of information or documentation requested. Therefore, the amount of time allowed may vary. Period of performance, POP. So in the PA Program and Policy Guide, or PAPA-G, The period of performance refers to the total amount of time FEMA authorizes a grantee to complete the approved work of the project. And finally, we have capped projects. FEMA provides 3 options that provide flexibility for the applicant to use public assistance funding differently than restoring the pre-disaster design and function of the facility. A little more information on capped projects. Capped projects may involve significant changes to the pre-disaster configuration of a facility. For example, the location, the footprint, or even the size. FEMA conducts EHP compliance reviews on the actual proposed scope of work to be performed prior to approving the project. The 3 capped project options are improved projects. The applicant may wish to make improvements to a damaged facility that are not required by eligible codes or standards, and a project that restores the pre-disaster function of a facility and incorporates improvements or changes to the pre-disaster design is an improved project. The second is an alternate project. The applicant may determine that the public welfare is not best served by restoring the function of the damaged facility. And when this occurs, the applicant must obtain FEMA's approval to apply PA funding toward a different facility or facilities. FEMA refers to this as an alternate project. The alternate project must be a permanent project that benefits the general public serving the same general area that was being served by the original facility. And third is the PA Alternative Procedure Project. This type of project offers the maximum amount of flexibility with how the applicant may use PA funding, including use of excess funds, which are not eligible under the improved or alternate project options. Alternative procedures projects need to be within the established timelines and deadlines. So now let's take a look at the amendments and versions. So to create an amendment for a project, it must be in the process step of applicant signed or obligated. And an amendment will need to be added to a project when there have been omissions, such as omitted damages. Also, amendments are required to request an administrative withdrawal of projects. Other reasons for amendments include changes to the scope of work, changes to costs, changes to any damages, changes resulting from insurance proceeds, and any hazard mitigation modifications. Keep in mind the applicant or subrecipient, the recipient, or FEMA, any of these can request an amendment in Grants Portal or Grants Manager. So now let's look at the process flow. First, why do you need an amendment? Why are you requesting this amendment? Next, you would identify the type of amendment you are requesting. Then, do you have the documentation to support the reason for this request? And finally, being aware of the next process step once the amendment is approved. Once the amendment is approved, the project will be taken out of the process step of either obligated or applicant signed and taken back to the process step where the modification can be made. A note on small projects. Once obligated, FEMA does not adjust the approved amount of an individual small project. Therefore, amendments for small projects are usually not done. This applies even when FEMA obligates the project based on an estimate and the actual cost for completing the eligible scope of work differ from the estimated amount. FEMA only adjusts the approved amount on individual small projects if one of the following conditions applies. The applicant or subrecipient did not complete the approved scope of work. The applicant subrecipient requests additional funds related to an eligible change in scope of work. The project contains inadvertent errors or omissions, or actual insurance proceeds differ from the amount deducted in the project. As a note, when we speak about subrecipients are applicants who receive a subaward from the recipient. In any of these cases, FEMA only adjusts the specific cost items affected. If none of the above applies, the subrecipient may request additional funding if the total actual cost of all of its small projects combined exceeds the total amount obligated for all of its small projects. Also, keep in mind, make sure that an amendment is the correct process flow that you are looking for. Make sure to consult FEMA disaster leadership if you're unsure if an amendment is the correct action that you're needing. Now we'll take a look at the amendment type information in the next few slides. On this slide, you will see the Grants Portal Project Amendment Request. In the General Information section next to the box labeled Specify Type of Amendment, select the option that best describes the type of amendment you would like to request from the drop-down menu. Here we'll take a look at some examples of amendment types and the resulting process step. So we will look at the first one. If you're needing changes to an alternate project, the amendment type that you would select is alternate project. The supporting documentation that would need to be uploaded is a proposed scope of work, including a timeline for completion within the period of performance. And the resulting process step that the project would be taken back to is pending CRC project development. If you will look at changes to an improved project, the amendment type would be improved project, and the supporting documentation that would need to be uploaded is a proposed scope of work, including timeline for completion within the period of performance. And the resulting process step is pending CRC project development. Here we have more examples. So the first one, if you're needing to edit the scope of work, the amendment type you would select is scope of work change. And the supporting documentation needing to be uploaded would be a proposed scope of work, including timeline for completion within the period of performance. And the resulting process step would be pending CRC project development. If you will look at the last example on this page, the applicant is withdrawing the project. The amendment type you would select is administrative withdrawal request. The supporting documentation, no documentation is required by the system, and the resulting process step, pending CRC project development. However, keep in mind, although no documentation is required, if it is not the authorized person making the request for the withdrawal, then documentation from the authorized person will need to be uploaded. For example, FEMA could complete the withdrawal request on behalf of the applicant, but would need documentation from the applicant requesting that the project be withdrawn. The first example here, if you're needing to revise your damage description and dimension or site inspection information, your amendment type you would select is latent damages. And the supporting documentation needing uploaded is support that the damage is related to the declared incident, any damage photographs, construction timeline project schedule, and a change of orders. And the resulting process step, pending formulation completion. And the final example here, adding or revising a hazard mitigation plan. The amendment type you would select is inclusion of a hazard mitigation plan. The supporting documentation needing to be uploaded would be a proposed scope of work, including timeline for completion within the period of performance. And the resulting process step, pending 406 hazard mitigation completion. A little more information on capped project amendments. So we did discuss that FEMA provides the three options to provide flexibility for the applicant to use PA funding differently than restoring the pre-disaster design and function of the facility. For these options, FEMA caps the amount of PA funding based on the estimated amount to restore the damaged facility to its pre-disaster design and function, including current eligible codes and standards as defined in Chapter 8, Section 3, Codes and Standards. Capped projects can be amended to either deobligate funds to align with costs or make a change to the hazard mitigation proposal in alignment with what policy allows for each type of capped project. For an improved project, if the capped amount includes PA mitigation funds and the applicant either does not complete the PA mitigation work or replaces or relocates the original facility, then FEMA deobligates the PA mitigation funds. For an alternate project, if the scope of work to restore a facility includes PA mitigation and the applicant elects to proceed with an alternate project, FEMA does not include costs related to the PA mitigation in the capped amount for the alternate project. And for an alternative procedures project under Section 428, which is large permanent work projects only, when the applicant is restoring the function but changing the pre-disaster capacity of a facility, the proposed PA mitigation scope of work is developed based on the actual scope of work to be performed. However, the cost effectiveness is evaluated based on the fixed cost amount accepted for the pre-disaster restoration scope of work. If the capacity is increased, the proposed hazard mitigation scope of work and cost is limited to the scope of work and cost necessary to mitigate to the pre-disaster capacity of the damaged facility. A hazard mitigation proposal for this project can only be amended once. If the applicant does not complete the approved PA mitigation, then FEMA deobligates the portion of the fixed cost amount related to hazard mitigation. So now let's walk through the process of requesting an amendment in Grants Manager. So once the amendment process for a project is completed, the project will be a new project version. Amending a project is also referred to as versioning a project. And just a friendly reminder for small projects, once FEMA obligates a small project, FEMA does not adjust the approved amount of an individual small project. Therefore, amendment requests for small projects are usually not done. This chart demonstrates the workflow when an amendment is submitted. The applicant, recipient, or FEMA can submit an amendment request, but should have documentation from the applicant's authorized representative to provide with the amendment request. If anyone is taking an action in the system on behalf of another user, then documentation from the authorized person is necessary as justification for taking this action, whether it be an administrative assistant making the request on behalf of an organization administrator or FEMA submitting a request on behalf of a recipient. If FEMA requires additional information to approve the amendment request, an RFI or a request for information can be submitted to the applicant or recipient to answer. And as part of EMMIE decommissioning, it is part of the plan to remove the last step on this chart. In Grants Portal, the project process step should be obligated or at least in the applicant signed project step. And the current version number is shown to the right of general information on the project page. The most important things to check before initiating a project amendment are the process step is either obligated or at least applicant signed. And if this is the first amendment to a project, then it will be listed as version 0. In Grants Portal, the project process step should be obligated or at least in the applicant signed project step. And the current version number is shown next to the general information. Now it's time to go through some screenshots showing system functionality in Grants Portal on how to create an amendment.
So now we're going to do a live demo in Grants Portal. I've logged on to our demo site, so all of this information is fictional. I have a tile set up for this amendment request course. If you don't happen to, you could drop down My Organization. You would open up Projects. Always make sure the filter at the top is open. So I'm going to click that button to open. I am going to be working in Winchester, Operation Winchester Freedom. I have my status selected for active for PA. As we just learned, we want our process step to be at obligated or applicant signed. So I will scroll down and pick obligated and applicant signed. Once I have my filter set for event, process step, and status active, I'm going to run query. You can see my button is blue, so I'm able to run query. And you can see here's the project I'm going to be working with today. Project number 273860. It is a category C. Title is Culvert 11. So I'm going to use the magnifying glass to open up this project. Note, under general information, we have version 0 here, so we know we're in our original project. You want to double check that we're an applicant signed project or obligated. So from here, I want to do an amendment. I'm going to click options. You can see I have comment, subscribe, request amendment. I'm going to hit the request amendment button, and you can see this screenshot. I'm in Operation Winchester Freedom again, in the demo site. I'm in the city of Alpha, and here's my project that I want to request an amendment for. So we're going to specify type of amendment, use that drop down. You can see we have administrative withdrawal, an alternate project, improved, inclusion of hazard mitigation, insurance, a latent damage, a PAP debris update. There's several choices here, scope of work change, cost alignment. But for today's demonstration, I'm going to do improved project. Specify type of amendment, always remember to start here. Then you're going to scroll down. For this demonstration, I'm going to do scope of work. Now you might have a cost change, you might have hazard mitigation, but for simplicity on this demonstration, I'm just going to do scope of work. You can see it says, please provide description and or reason. So I'm going to give a good description of why I want to request an amendment for this project. So we can see during the flooding event, we had a 6-foot diameter round pipe. It was blocked with woody debris and sediment, causing the culvert to blow out. The city of Alpha intended to replace the culvert in like kind, which was captured in version 0. However, it was later determined that cutthroat trout migrated through the stream, and the existing culvert outlet required the trout to jump 2 feet, blocking fish migration. The permit issued required an 18-foot wide open bottom arch, and then the stream gradient through the culvert is 4.4%. Boulder steps were built inside the culvert every 20 feet, with the top of the steps level with the stream. So I've provided as a description here. At this point, I could hit save or submit to recipient. I don't want to submit to recipient because I need to add my documentation to justify this request for an amendment. So I'm going to scroll down. You can see I have an add document button. Click the add document button. I'm going to drag and drop. And this is my request for an amendment. I have an edit button and a remove button, so I could remove this document if I had attached the wrong one. But I want to edit this document to make sure I have a description here. So I'm going to hit edit, description, request for amendment. You can see I have in categories, applicant recipient request and bid proposal quote. This isn't a bid proposal quote. I'm going to take that one off. On my categories, I could drop it down and pick whatever document this was. You can also narrow your category filters down. If it's codes and standards and I clicked in category, it would only allow me to pick codes and standards. I am in all, so I can see all documents. So I've loaded this, I've edited it with a description. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to upload this document. Always remember there will be several documents to justify this amendment. I will add now a permit, my new permit for the trout stream. Again, I have no description, so I'm going to edit. This is a permit. My category is federal, state, or local permit, so I'm good. I've used the proper naming convention. I have a project number, a DR number, and a name of the document. So I'm going to hit save once again and upload this document. You may have several more documents in real life, but for the ease of this demonstration, I'm going to only upload the 2. I'm going to double check my information again. I've provided my description. I'm in Improve Project. So I'm going to submit to recipient. Remember, you could save this and come back to this at a later time, and all your information would be saved. So I'm going to submit to recipient. And now you can see on the project, this is the first time this project has been pending amendment request approval. I could view the amendment request. I can go down and look at my history, see what has been done with this project. And you can see I have new status pending amendment request approval. So this project is now pending the recipient review. And this is how it would look at the recipient's review. We're back in Grants portal as the recipient, and the recipient would see approve request. They would also have options to edit this request or cancel this request. So let's see what this project looks like in Grants Manager. I can go into my projects tile. I'm in Event Operation Winchester Freedom. I'm at Active for PA. I could put in my process step, applicant signed or pending amendment request. I can also go down here to my quick search. We were working in project 273860. I can put the project number in and hit search. This bar acts just like a Google bar. Also, if you don't know the project number off the top of your head, you could put in Culvert 11, which was the name of our project. You can see it comes up under Culvert 11. So I'm going to use the magnifying glass to open up this project. And you can see this project is pending amendment request approval on the Grants Manager, the FEMA side of the house. I have a yellow brick road. I can see that I can view this amendment request. You can see now, I can see it's a type of amendment, improved project. I've got scope of work change. I can review the description. I can review the documents that have been added. I can approve this request, or I could reject this request. I could also edit this request or cancel the request. I am going to approve this. Now I'm on pending recipient review. I'm going to approve this on the recipient side of the house. I would have an email authorizing FEMA to do this. So you can see I've just put in a comment, email authorizing FEMA to sign on the recipient's behalf is loaded at the project level. So I'm going to approve this request. You can see again, pending process step, pending recipient review. I'm going to go ahead and approve this on behalf of the recipient. Now you can see my process step has changed to pending PDMG review. So as the program delivery manager for FEMA, I'm going to review this. I've looked at my description. I see type of amendment is improved project for scope of work change. The document that's been loaded here, I am going to approve this request. And I will hit the approve request button once I have my comment in. And you can see my process step has now changed to pending program delivery task force leader review. Task force leader is also going to review this information. So double check, everyone has eyes on it, make sure everything's correct. Again, we're going to look at the type of amendment, the description, the scope of work, the documents. I can approve this request. I could mark it ineligible. I could edit or I could cancel this request. Now at this point, if this was marked ineligible, it is only marking the amendment request ineligible, not the original project. And it will begin the determination memo process. And the determination memo, again, will only be for the amendment, but it will trigger a series of reviews, including the program delivery task force leader, the PA group supervisor, and the determination memo analyst. These review queues will request supporting documents. Please note that under the Stafford Act and all other applicable regulations, applicants and recipients are entitled to appeal a FEMA determination or decision. So for the purpose of this exercise, we're going to go ahead and approve this request. And you can now see that it's pending amendment processing. I can create an RFI, or I could edit or cancel the request. For this demonstration, we're going to go ahead and create an RFI. RFIs are typically 14 to 15 days out, so I'm going to check my date, and I am going to put permit attached is not signed. Now we'll create this RFI. Now you can see we're back at the RFI level. This is pending an RFI setup completion. I have my project, my culvert 11-273-860, and my RFI. So I need to assign a line item to the RFI. We're going to pick environmental and historic document. We're going to put Endangered Species Act as our keyword. And our reason is the permit provided is not signed. Please provide the signed permit. I'm going to add it to this damaged line item, which is our culvert that was blown out and washed away. So I'm going to add it to that line item. And then I'm going to create the RFI. Go down here and see line items. I have one line item, FEMA line item 4704. For an Environmental and Historic Document, Endangered Species Act, because the permit is not signed. You can see options. I could edit the line item or remove the line item. I could also assign another RFI, another line item to the RFI. So we're going to go ahead and send this to the applicant. So let's have a look at this on the grants portal side of things. Refresh my screen. And you can see this project is currently on hold because there are pending RFIs. I could also go over to my task. If you weren't at this level, you all and see RFIs. I could get to that this way. And you can see here's my RFI for my Culvert 11 project. You would also receive a red task bell in Grants Portal and in Grants Manager. There are several ways to get to different process steps or to complete an action. So again, you could go over to My Task, RFIs, or you could go to the red bell button to review this RFI. You can see the RFI is pending applicant response. So as an applicant, you would want to respond to this request. I'm in my yellow brick road. I'm going to hit respond to request. And you can see, I see the same information here. The permit's not provided. Please provide. Note down here, I have a discussion tab. I could start a discussion with the FEMA Program Delivery Manager. And I could say, I'm so sorry I attached the unsigned permit. I'm answering the RFI now, and we'll have it over to you shortly with the signed permit. So I could start a discussion with my PDMG. My program delivery manager, we get that message through the grants manager system. But we want to go ahead and answer this RFI. So you can see I can go to options. I can upload an RFI line document or record an RFI line response. I'm going to record an RFI line response and put signed permit. Then you can see my response is here, signed permit attached, but I need to attach that signed permit. So I could go to options, I could upload the document, or I could also upload the document here. Let's upload RFI line document. I'm going to upload the signed permit. You can see this is telling me this document is duplicative. So I have the yellow arrow here, so I need to edit. We're going to call this signed permit 2. Description, signed permit. Go down here and do permit and do federal, state, or local permit. And I can save that and upload this document. So I'm going to double check everything. I've made my response. I've attached my document. I can go down here and look at my documents and see that I have attached the signed document. You could open it, download and view. You could remove it. But I have double checked and everything looks great to me. So I'm going to submit this RFI response back to FEMA. Signed permit is attached and submit the RFI response. Now I can go back into Grants Manager. And you can see this RFI is now pending field verification. I'm in my yellow brick road. I want to verify my line items. What did this applicant send me? I can see reason the permit is provided is not signed. Please provide the signed permit. I can go down here to discussions. I can open up the discussion. And I can see that my applicant has said that they were sorry. They've attached the signed permit and they're having it over to me shortly. So I'm going to go back to the RFI, verify the line items. I'm going to open this up. They've given me a response of signed permit is attached. I'm going to look into my documents, see that the signed permit is attached. I would open that up, review it, make sure it's correct, and then go to option and verify this RFI. So now you can see it's still pending field verification. I'm going to close this RFI. And then in Grants Portal, you can see that this RFI is closed once you look at it again in Grants Portal. So let's go back to Grants Manager. Go ahead and look at this amendment request. You can see on my yellow brick road, we have review request and process amendment. So I'm going to go ahead and process this amendment. So down here, I have version 0. At my amendments, you can see here is my improved project for the request for the amendment. And I'm going to go ahead and submit this project. Going back to Grants Portal. What does this project now look like? You can see we have version 1 here. The process step has changed. It's been back to the CRC. They've had a look at it, and now it's pending peer review. And that is how you process an amendment in Grants Portal. Thank you for your attention.
Now for some closing slides. Here are some resources. Today we discussed the Public Assistance Program and Policy Guide, also known as our PAPA G. Please remember to use the version that was in place at the time the event was declared. There's the Code of Federal Regulations website. If you have any policy-specific questions, you can contact FEMA's headquarters policy branch at the email listed here. Don't forget to check out the Grants Portal Support Center. You can find additional job aids and fact sheets, as well as a copy of this presentation. And if any of our state, local, tribe, or territory partners would like to request additional training, please coordinate with your regional offices. Regional offices can request training from the Learning and Development Branch by sending an email listed here, and please identify your organization that you are associated with in your email. If you're not familiar with the Grants Portal Grants Manager YouTube channel, here are some basic videos that you can check out. It has basic navigation, dashboards, widgets, and tiles. If you can't remember how to make that activity completion deadline tile, you can go and review those videos. We also have our recipient and subrecipient Grants Portal user manuals. We are constantly adding additional videos here, so feel free to check back regularly for updated trainings. And we also are going to be working on our Grants Portal user manuals, so check out the support center for those updates coming later this year. Assistance can be provided via the Grants Portal customer service hotline. So you can reach out to them at the following information. You can call them, you can send an email. Their national hotline hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. And then we have our personally identifiable information, PII warning, in accordance with the Privacy Act of 1974, 5 U.S.C. 552A. Please ensure that any sensitive personally identifiable information, PII, has been removed or redacted prior to uploading any files. This includes social security numbers, birth dates, financial account information, home addresses, or similar information. To report corruption, waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, and misconduct, you can reach out to our DHS Office of Inspector General at the phone number listed here, or you can send them a letter at their address. We have our procurement guidance, our PDAT Procurement Disaster Assistance Team. If you have any questions regarding procurement, please feel free to reach out to them. You can also go to FEMA.gov/grants/procurement for more information. Thank you very much for attending. Have a great day.